fire flared about lunchtime yesterday and took hold in the Loftier Recreation Park. As it raced through the park, nearby residents fled from the path of the bushfire. Flames gorging on tinder-dry undergrowth broke out of the park and moved towards several houses in different areas, but fire crews and householders managed to ward off the threat.
But I didn't expect it to come down so quick down here, because this is quite a safe area down here, being so low in the valley, but you just don't know, do you?
It's an incredible save when you look around the Heathfield area at just what was in the direct line of that fire. And bearing in mind that most of the crews are very tired because they've been at this sort of thing since lunchtime Monday, and there's been no let-up right the way through the week.
Heavy rain eventually helped struggling firefighters to stop the inferno. Up to 20 millimetres of rain fell in the area, and the thick pall of smoke was replaced by fog in the hills this morning. Most firefighters are taking a well-earned break after yesterday's arduous battle, but some crews are continuing mopping up operations to ensure the fires don't again flare when temperatures soar later this week. The Country Fire Service has warned the fire season is far from over, and the risk of another major blaze is still high. Surveying the damage this morning, some residents couldn't believe their homes were spared. Mark Elliott was trapped and decided to fight the fire as it surged at his Ironbank home.
Thinking back, I can't really remember what happened. The time was a bit of a blur, but I just thought at the time it was the right thing to do.
And while fire crews completed their clean-up, police continue to search for the firebugs they believe are responsible for starting several outbreaks in the past week. Neil Cross, 10 News.
Well, CFS crews were all that was needed for today's mopping up around Heathfield. Overnight rain had made their task easier. But before the rain came, fire raced through more than 400 hectares of bush and scrub. The charred remains are a stark reminder of just how close we were to real disaster. There may have been no houses destroyed, but many came close. This one behind me was completely circled by flames, and somehow CFS crews managed to save it. Many homes were under threat, forcing owners to grab what belongings they could and flee. An army of firefighters battled the blaze as it raged out of control. Then suddenly, luck was on their side.
We were lucky the wind changed and went back the other way.
But the real saviour was the rain that followed.
Oh, that was great. You know, just dampened everything down.
Today, locals had time to reflect at just how close the flames had come.
When you see just how
a day to dry out, then the extreme fire danger will have returned.
The fuel in the Mount Lofty ranges is always there. The weather is the key factor. If we have hot weather conditions, dry northerly winds, then we're in strife.
Mr Greer says if the temperature returns to the mid to high 30s, the CFS will have to patrol the hills day and night. The weather's expected to heat up again from Monday. Jeff Dunn, 7 Nightly News.
Fire started in the street. Herbicide fell from a utility in Lake Street around 9:30. The driver was overcome and treated by ambulance crews before being taken to hospital. Firefighters needed breathing equipment to avoid toxic fumes as they set about cleaning up. The chemicals soaked through the bitumen and some sections of the road had to be dug up. The bitumen was put in drums and will be brought to Adelaide for destruction on Monday.
Been burning fast and out of control toward Kaipo Forest near Wollonga. 3 separate fires broke out just before 2 o'clock this afternoon in the Kaima Conservation Park. And for the 200 Country Fire Service personnel, the going was tough.
Knock it out!
The heavily wooded bushland provided ample fuel, and with most of the area largely inaccessible, it was a battle to keep one step ahead. Roads were closed and one home was evacuated. Other residents were advised to stay indoors and listen to the radio for further information. At one stage, fire came within 100 metres of several farms. 34 fire appliances worked with 2 bomber aircraft, a helicopter coordinating efforts in the air and on the ground. By using an airstrip in the Kaipo Forest, the aircraft were able to operate on a quick turnaround. Late this afternoon, the fire in farmland was under control. Then, shortly after 4:30, a wind change pushed fire still raging in Kaima further north into the park. And it created a new hazard, thick smoke on Brooklyn Road, 6 kilometres south of the Kaipo Forest headquarters. The CFS will try and build fire breaks tonight, but can't say when the fire will be brought under control. Meanwhile, police are looking for 3 youths seen in the area shortly before the fires broke out. Astra Dadzis, National 9 News.
The fire is burning about 10 kilometres from here, between Wollonga and Meadows. It's burning on about a half a kilometre front, and it's keeping 200 firefighters busy. The fire began around 1 o'clock this afternoon on the roadside at the Kayima Conservation Park. That's led police to suspect that it had been deliberately lit.
The CIB have been assisting with the investigation.
So does it look as though the fire was deliberately lit?
We're still trying to ascertain that.
But it's a strong chance?
Yeah, it is a possibility that it was deliberately lit.
The flames have whipped through hundreds of hectares of scrub, grass and some tall timber, sending up a huge pall of smoke. Although there have been no property losses or evacuations at this stage, for some the fire has come too close for comfort. Eric Smollicombe has vivid memories of the disastrous Ash Wednesday fires and is livid at the thought that someone could have deliberately lit this latest blaze.
It's the most lousiest thing that anyone could do. Not fit to live on earth.
The 200 firefighters have come from far and near to tackle the blaze, assisted by water-bombing aircraft. They're concentrating on containing the fire. The winds are shifting, and while this at times is good because the fire's turning back on itself, at other times the fire's unpredictability is posing real dangers. The most optimistic assumption is that the blaze will be under control in the next few hours.
We've got the northeast sector in particular that's giving us some problems, and the northern sector. I hope to have it controlled by dark.
John Bock, 7 Nightly News.
Wind shifts and a fire front that was devouring everything in its path. It was ravaging hundreds of hectares of trees and scrub in Kayima Conservation Park as it headed toward Kaipo Forest. With flames at times leaping 20 metres into the air, 300 CFS volunteers relied on extensive backburning. But through the night, another wind shift forced a change of plan. Fire units raced to another location to begin backburning there. By daybreak, relief crews were on the scene, but an effort that had already lasted more than 18 hours was still far from over.
No, it's not contained at the moment. No, once the breaks go in, which I hope will be in roughly within the next hour, then it will be contained within breaks but still burning in the centre of the fire.
The backburn operation and firebombing became a race against time as fire swept up a gully, threatening to break through perimeters lined by up to a dozen units.
Get your hoses in there! Come on, let's go!
Gradually, however, it was being brought under control. As the battle continued, National Parks officers were already lamenting a huge loss to one of the state's premier conservation parks. Forming part of the internationally acclaimed Hyson walking trail, it was also a blow to hundreds of school children who had helped rejuvenate the park after Ash Wednesday.
Oh, it's fairly significant. An area of maybe 10, 15, 20 hectares that they planted with trees, with seedlings back in 1983. So, and in fact, we were looking at a sort of a 10-year anniversary for the trees in the forthcoming year.
The CFS warns there will be total fire bans in 11 districts tomorrow, including the Adelaide Hills. The Weather Bureau is predicting hot northerly winds and thunderstorms. David Kellett, National 9 News.
Morning after a long night of backburning in the Kayima Conservation Park.
It was pretty tough. It was very hot, and at times we thought we were going to lose it.
50 appliances, 7 tankers and 2 aircraft dropping retardant contained the blaze by 7 o'clock. But then an outbreak over a fire track.
There was one point when our backburn met the fire coming out, and it's like 2 fires meeting and really big flames in the trees, and really exciting there for a while, heaps of sparks.
Firefighters had to fall back to the next track to keep the flames under control. At one point they came dangerously close to every CFS volunteer's nightmare, Kaipo Forest.
Well, that was the major concern last night when they put the burn in. I'd hate to think it's something I haven't come across, the pine tree fire and like a pine plantation fire, and I don't think I want to start today.
Today, 10 fire units on both the northern and eastern boundaries continued backburning. Aerial bombers flew overhead. With the soaring temperatures, spot fires can be the biggest problem. They can spring out of nowhere from the smouldering embers. 3 youths, police suspected of starting the fire, have been questioned and cleared. At this stage, a cause is still undetermined. 300 volunteers who were up all last night are just glad the fire's under control.
I certainly don't want to come back tonight and do it all again.
Peter Caldecott, 7 Nightly News.